Okay, students, today we have another lesson on the unit that we've been studying called the Enlightenment and its Critics. And we're going to look closely today at a Scottish philosopher by the name of David Hume. Hume acknowledges, and of course at this time we're in the late 18th century, the ideas of John Locke and his empiricism that we studied last time are very, very popular. Hume acknowledges that Locke has given a coherent discussion of how the mind works and how we come to know things. And he acknowledges that the empirical model, the idea that all knowledge comes from experience, has yielded many discoveries. It just seems to work. But Hume is known for his skepticism. And skepticism means doubt. There are questions about Locke's theory of how the mind works. And Locke believed that we build with sense experiences that we have through our senses, and that these are the basis for our ideas. If we had no experience with our senses, Locke suggests there would be no basis for ideas. But Hume asked the question, what then are we to say about time? We don't experience time through our senses. What are we to say about space? We don't experience space through our senses. Hume is not the first to point this out. This is an observation first made by the Stoics, and Hume was widely read in Stoic philosophy. But the problem is, the empiricists have no answer for this. Locke was aware of the problem, but all he could say is, only God knows the answer to those questions. This is not a satisfying answer to Hume. He suspects that the empirical model, the ideas of Locke, it's not really capable of explaining how the mind works. Now, obviously, he does not say that space and time don't exist. He merely points out the fact that the empiricists can't account for how we experience them. And Hume is famous for expanding his skepticism to include the concept of causation. That would be cause and effect. We believe that every effect has a cause, that there is a cause for everything that happens. Now, we can't know this empirically. In other words, we can't test and observe everything. And Hume goes on to say that causation, cause and effect, it's not a recording of something observed in the external world. If I push this podium here and it moves, we say my pushing it caused it to move. But Hume would say we only observe two things. We observe my pushing the podium, and we observe it moving. We did not see causation. Causation, then, Hume claims, is something that the mind assigns to conjoined experiences that happen back to back. So the concept of causality, of cause and effect, Hume asserts, appears to be inherent in the mental operations themselves. And that would mean it doesn't come from experience. It comes from our inherited mental apparatus This is a serious question about the empiricist notion that all knowledge comes from experience, that all knowledge comes from experience. And so Hume is going to ask, is there a better explanation? And he's not going to give us a clear explanation of this, but the philosopher that we study in the next lesson, Immanuel Kant, will. So we're moving in that direction. Okay. We're here. Locke and the empiricists say that our moral and ethical judgments are based on experience as well. But Hume says our moral judgments, and by that I mean why we call some things good and others bad, Hume says these are based on our sentiments and feelings. We feel approval or disapproval for certain actions. What are our feelings based on? Hume says our feelings are based on utility, and that means usefulness. So if we see an act of benevolence, someone doing good work, someone doing charitable works, we approve of this and call these good because they promote the public good. They are useful. That's why we call them good. If we see an act of justice, we approve of just and fair actions because this is a must. They're useful. This is a must for living in society. We have to count on dealing with each other in a fair and just way for things to work. Now, here's an interesting one. Lying. Okay? If I ask you what you did this past weekend, and you said you went home, we're saying you're at school now, and I asked you where you were from, and you told me you were from Hattiesburg. If later I found out you didn't go home, you stayed here at the school, and you're not from Hattiesburg, you're from Oxford, has your lying done me any harm? Well, the answer is no. But why would I disapprove? Why would I feel uneasy? Because we have to trust each other in order for things to function and go smoothly in our lives, and now I would feel that I can't trust you. So the empirical view that everything is based on experience, experiences that cause me displeasure I call bad, experiences that bring me pleasure I call good, but Hume suggests that we have certain characteristics in our biological constitution that, in addition to experience, determine what we call good and bad. And so you can see that empiricism, the empirical ideas of John Locke, are being brought into question on several fronts by David Hume. All right, Hume says a little more about our feelings. Compassion, care. We feel these naturally for our family members and close friends. Hume suggests that these sentiments can be expanded and take in larger groups. What can expand our sentiments and make us feel for larger groups of people? Hume says literature is one way. We can learn to feel for others outside of our most intimate acquaintances by learning to feel for characters in works of literature. Now, Hume is very influential here. writers of his time began to try to evoke feelings in readers. And the late 18th century is known in literary terms as the age of sensibility. It was a time of sentimental literature where the writers consciously tried to make the readers feel, and feel very deeply. Hume is also skeptical